I hope I'm audible. I'm audible?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, yes. Okay. Hi, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. I'm Nitya Bankpali. I'm honored to be your host for today's event. I'm thrilled to have you all to explore about design for conservation. Let me speak about the platform first, about Nature's Eye. The Nature's Eye is powered by Wildlife Arc, is a group of nature enthusiasts who wish to share their knowledge, experience with their world. Uh, they strive to bring informative educational content from the tiny living world to the city dwellers. Their motto is to empower environmentalists by creating opportunity not only for budding environmentalists, but also for the people related to this field. Also, the ones who want to join in through various online and offline programs. The Nature's Eye works on bridging ecology and economy. We highly appreciate working with ecology and nature enthusiasts who wish to bring a change in spreading education and awareness. This webinar is such an attempt towards educating and spreading awareness. There are many such events lined up as well. In today's session, we aim to speak more about like design for conservation. What exhibition design really is, its roles and responsibility, and the real world impact, where the exhibition design meets environmental education, how design can turn audience, how an activist matters for the environment, and importance in the field, and how complex it is in India. Before we get started, I have few housekeeping rules to go over. Please keep your microphones muted during the presentation to avoid any background noise. Feel free to submit your questions in the chat box at any time. We will do address it after the session. This webinar is being recorded. The recording will be available for you after the session. Please tune with us by joining our community group for more job alerts and webinar alerts. So, about the speaker, Vishnu Ulapati is an exhibition and experience designer who creates impressive narrative driven environments for museum, aquariums, and culture institutes. He weaves together digital and physical experiences to shape how we connect with nature world and our shared cultural heritage. With a focus of transforming complex knowledge to tangible form. Exhibition designer, he is an exhibition designer, explores how the space we build to display the nature might be also among the most powerful tools to protect as well. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Vishnu to the session. Without any further delay, let's dive into the webinar. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Nitya. Thank you, Nitya, Kaden, and the Nature's Eye team for facilitating this. I'm very happy to be joining all of you today. Um, I'll be taking you over some of the work that I do, and what it essentially entails, and what are the impacts that we can see because of such work from the lens of conservation. Uh, now, what we need to bear in mind is a lot of the projects I'd worked on are still under construction, so I'll be sharing as much detail as I'm able to. But if something doesn't seem clear or redacted, you can always reach out and be able to clarify further. Okay, so let's start with what I actually do. I come from a background of industrial design and interior architecture. A lot of my work has to do with understanding what a spatial scenario requires for enhancing it in terms of narrative flow or a narrative structure, and finding the right technologies or spatial strategies to imbue into design so that we are able to bring forth the kind of impact that we are looking at for each different project. And a lot of what this goes through is it usually starts off by trying to understand what is it the what is it that we are trying to achieve in the project by setting the right kind of goals and starting to map out the strategies and interpretive support that we are able to give for each of these projects. So a lot of it has to do with research in the start. We conduct a lot of workshops with different stakeholders. So for most of my line of work, I've been working as a part of design studios which design museums. So I'm not designing the individual traveling exhibits per se. What I design are the permanent exhibits that go into an institution and designing the institution from an architectural end as well. Um, so anything that we work on usually has a time frame of as a project it goes on between 5 to 7 years, and the lifespan of each of these interventions lasts anywhere between 20 to 40 years on an average. So there is a lot of intensive workshopping that goes on. We have to take into consideration all the different stakeholders. By stakeholders, I mean people who work at the institution. A lot of times these are not-for-profit institutions as well, so they're run by donors. So understanding what the donors' needs are, what the institution's needs are, and then where does the institution fit into society, and trying to bridge all of these different stakeholder values together to achieve the final result. So I'll be focusing a little more on an aquarium project that I've worked on, which is currently under construction here in Chicago, USA. So when we had started off, there was a lot of back and forth speaking with experts in animal care, people who actually work with the animals that are housed in the habitats of the institution, then working with architects on the side to understand how this particular institution was built over 100 years ago, and how do we carefully uh, reinterpret each of these spaces and then structurally tackle these spaces for the future, and then integrating some technology into it as well. So when you look at the end result of an average project that I work on, this is what it looks like. It's a mixture of interpretive media. Sometimes it's projected surfaces, sometimes it's backlit graphics, a lot of times it's three-dimensional exhibits. And a lot of this has to do with architectural coordination in the start. So in most scenarios, we inherit a building, and we are essentially trying to retain its structural qualities, its historical qualities, and then try to see how we are carefully able to feed the new narrative into it without having to completely destroy an existing structure and build it up. Then we go into actually looking at the three-dimensional exhibits. These these could be something as simple as cases, which are exhibiting artifacts. They could be interactive exhibits as well. In some scenarios, there would be programming as well, where we would be interacting with people who work at the institution. And what happens in the background, or what is supposed to go silent and try not necessarily try to be very in your face, are the ticketing and visitor flows. So we try to understand different seasons through the year. What is the variation in visitor flows? Like summers, for example, we usually see a lot of traffic increase. On an average, we see easily 30,000 people going through exhibits in a day uh, during very rush season, whereas during the quieter seasons it's much lesser. So trying to understand uh, how many uh, how many groups are we able to take through. So understanding each exhibit from the time perspective as well, the temporal perspective, where we see how long does it take to for a person to go through an exhibit, and how long does it take for them to actually understand the information and take it with them. A big part of it is also guiding people through signage and wayfinding, which is usually a collaboration between exhibit designers and the graphic designers who work at the studio. And immersive media, a lot of it has to do with working with creative technologists to see what different mediums that we are able to bring in. Are these touch surfaces? Are we trying to keep it open for tactile experiences as well for people with sensory challenges? And uh, essentially, when we wrap all of these tasks up, that's where we can say that we have successfully made a museum or an institution, and hope that it serves to take forward the memory that we are trying to. So, what have I shipped till now? I've worked on a total of seven different projects, which are going into construction. One that I'm working with right now, which is the Audubon Society here in Dallas. Um, so, three of the major museums I've worked on were all had to do with city history and cultural history. One of them is, of course, the Shed Aquarium, which is what I'll be speaking more about today, and Washington on the Brazos, and a couple others at American history museums. So you can see there's a variation of topics, and every time we jump into a new project, um, we are starting with a blank slate, trying to do a lot of homework. And what I've learned over the years is that when done right and with the right kind of rigor, it is a very journalistic process, because a lot of what we are trying to say through these institutions are not always open for interpretation. We uh, hope to give all the information that people would need to make their own opinions and their own narratives about what they are curious about. But there's a lot of responsibility of keeping facts as facts, communicating fiction as fiction. So one of the main things that I've been very curious about through my practice is understanding what are the different systems of memory. Now, when we talk about exhibitions or museums, a lot of these are very, very formal contexts. And whereas when we look at how knowledge has been passed on from generation to generation, especially in the non-westernized framework or non-westernized canon of memory keeping, we can see a lot of variation, especially in a place like India. So, looking at formal systems, we of course have archives, where it could be reading material, it could be specimens which are stored away in archives, which are usually put in rotation to museums, and them being sent to different institutions over a period to try different programmings. Then we have fixed exhibits where there are actual specimens, taxidermy specimens, which is, I guess, a form of uh, keeping keeping memory of um, different ecologies around the world. Some that are extinct, some that are endangered, and some that are still thriving. We have memorials, like this one, for example, which is a Holocaust memorial. Um, and memorials are usually found around the human memory and conflict that are more anthropomorphic in terms of its memory. And then we have galleries, of course, which display either art history or design history. And these are the major kind of institutions that we get to see around the world. Now, what we have just started scratching the surface of as a more public access repertoire as well, are these smaller, I wouldn't say smaller, but uh, the more widely spread out, but lesser spoken of embodied systems of memories. These could be things like work songs that are sung across various cultures around the world. And especially if we see some particular cultures like folk songs of the Gond tribes or in the Telangana region, some of these songs are dedicated just to speak about a certain kind of plant or a certain kind of food or how a particular activity is done. So these are not just things that are repeated while an activity is going on, it's also carrying through uh, how to do it in the right manner and what are the important things to remember. Then, of course, we have narrated systems of remembrance, which all of us go through in practically every culture. There's the idea of having heirlooms. A lot of times we see these as seed banks, as artifacts that are passed on from one generation to the other, and very strictly in a smaller societal circle. And then we, of course, have performative, which I guess is the most consumed of all of these forms, where we have to a certain extent formalized the music and dance performative aspects of things. And moving on to what are the kind of exhibits that we try to embody in terms of these memories. Um, I can see that there are two main variations. One of which is, of course, whether we are looking at a subject in a very dissectional manner or a contextual manner. By disexual, I mean, say, for example, we go to a museum, we are looking at a particular plant or an animal. We are peeling away the layers and trying to understand the mechanics of it, the behavioral aspects of that particular individual from a more deterministic, uh, internally layered standpoint. Whereas in a contextual setting, it is something more to do with understanding what is the world that the subject inhabits. So both of these give completely different context cues to us. They give us different understandings of each of these beings, and what are the relational aspects that we're able to form regarding each of them. And coming to uh, the way that we inhabit these exhibits, there are the kinds that are observable, like on the left, what we are looking at is essentially a closed-off diorama with an actual taxidermied species in there and a painted background. So we get an understanding of the scale, the texture, the environment that the particular subject is in. And on the right, what we have is an interactive one, where the more, especially when we start going into the more abstract territory of communicating sciences or communicating deeper aspects of a culture that people are not usually exposed to, we interactive exhibits help a lot, where people are actually able to see how each of their actions makes the exhibit react and try to learn from the interaction rather than just observing it. Now, all of this said, this is a question that I still keep asking myself, and most of the people I work with, to a healthy extent, all of us keep asking this question and keep reframing all the time. What is an exhibition? And for that, I guess the easier way to understand it is, let's just take a plain example, the smallest example that we are able to, and see what are the uh, hidden aspects behind it. What we are looking at over here is uh, it's technically a massive tank with a huge piece of acrylic that's holding thousands of gallons of water, and it it has living coral in there. It sort of has fake plants and fake corals in there as well. Probably a bunch of sea creatures, and we are able to observe how they behave in this environment. But when it comes to what is the work that's gone behind it and how many people have worked on it, uh, we can immediately start to see the different layers of intervention that went behind it. On the right, we can see the little aspects of signage and graphics and interpretive and content graphic use, which essentially guide us through these spaces with information. We have experts who have worked on the rock work and the habitat. We have hidden away electricals and lighting, which are powering and framing this whole experience. Um, in the background, we have caretakers and the life support systems that they use. Life support systems are essentially all the filtration system, the ones that keep the water temperature correct, yada, 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 all the technicalities that we don't see but are crucial for the animals within the enclosure, not just survive, but also thrive in the right manner. Um, and we work a lot, of course, with build, build and fabrication contractors who uh, try to make uh, the spatial process as seamless as possible. And the final layer usually that comes on are the interactives and media. So, as a fun exercise, let me take you all through a very small example of how we go about the design process and what are the different step-by-step considerations that we look at. So, today we'll be designing for the giant Pacific octopus, which is usually found in the Pacific Ocean between Baja California and Japan. Uh, to what we know, it is the largest octopus in existence. And we are going to try to understand what their needs are, um, what their behaviors are, and let that shape the kind of decisions that we make while designing the enclosure for them. Um, Say hello to the octopus. As you can see, in every frame, they start to look very different, and there's good reason for why. They're built in very special ways that allows them to practically take on uh, any form texturally or in terms of color. So quickly going into the main highlight aspects of them. The foremost thing of why octopuses grab so many people's imaginations and are considered a very good example of sentient beings among scientists is because of the number of ways that they're able to sense the world and express their existence in the world. So, in terms of sensing, they have chemotactile sensing, which is essentially chemo is anything that's got to do with sensing chemicals. This is akin to our sense of smell and taste. And they have an added layer to that, which is chemotactile, which essentially means each of their arms is has little sensory cells placed throughout the arm where they're able to touch, smell, and taste anything that they put their arm towards at the same time. And they're also called cephalopods, which comes from the word cephalus, which means brain, and pod, which means foot, which essentially is uh, trying to say that they have brains all over the place, and which is actually true. They have nine different brains, one central brain, and one sort of dedicated brain for each arm. If we look at it in a neurological manner, they have three different parts to pump the whole vascular system. Um, so coming back to senses, their skin is able to completely, individually, and instinctively sense and react to the light intensities around it without needing the central nervous system to respond to it. Um, and they have one of the most advanced visions in the animal kingdom, uh, where they where they practically have no blind spot in their eyes, so they're able to see anything and everything that's going around them. Um, and they're able to see polarized light. So even though they are not able to see colors, they are able to see a wide spectrum of very directional information. What polarized light gives them is essentially two eyes that are looking at um, not monodirectional, but like strictly directional light, which is essentially able to let them track any movement around them in the most keen manner possible. And the way that they express themselves in the world is by using a whole set of chromatophores, which are color changing cells, iridophores, which are cells that can turn on and off their reflective nature. Think glitter, but it's able to turn on and off. And leucophores essentially try to mimic light. And the papillae are the skin folds that we are able to see on the image. They're able to make them completely smooth or make them super spiky. So they can look like a piece of coral at one point and then immediately look like the smoothest pebble you would have ever found. And all of this happens through complex reasoning and a very immediate form of reacting to its environment. Okay, all of this sounds great. It sounds like I'm geeking out about this. But why this becomes important while building an exhibit or an enclosure for them is because they're highly, highly sensitive creatures. And in the wild, they're super solitary and they're nocturnal, which means they like to keep to themselves. They like to hide away all the time. They like to stay in the dark as much as possible. But in an exhibit environment, usually they're flooded with lights in all different directions. There's a massive acrylic sheet in front of them, and people keep coming up to the sheet and keep tapping on it in hopes of trying to bring the octopus closer to them. Now, this can absolutely overwhelm the octopuses very, very easily. Um, so when we try to build, we build rock works in such a way that they're able to hide away whenever they want to and come back and interact with people whenever they want to. And we call this an animal first approach, something that I learned with the first ever office I worked with, Think Design. If anybody's planning on working in exhibit design, that's an amazing place to start. I learned my ropes over there. And uh, what their focus always is that we create an environment for the animal first so that they're able to thrive in their own environment with their own behaviors that the users then get to observe without having to push them or jostle them around. So, taking all of these things into consideration, we start sketching out which piece of information can be the most interesting to a certain set of audience, depending on the age group, who's trying to go for what sort of information, and how do they best learn this particular characteristic from the subject also starts to become important. So then, through a process of workshopping with the animal caretakers and with existing visitors, we try to map out what are the best ways to explain each of these pieces of information. So everything that you're seeing in magenta is essentially either habitat or media. And then the purple is for graphics, green is for programming. So we divide these things in so that we are not representing every piece of information in every single way. We are divvying it up in a way that they're all sort of piecemeal, and then people are able to build it off of there. And coming to how this information is interpreted, we start off with an interpretive strategy, and a lot of our work is heavily informed by the content and interpretive experts who work with us. These are people who are magicians with words, who understand the simplest of language that is able to communicate while keeping people's attention and keeping information simple, not as wordy as I am today. Uh, so a lot of that processing is done by them, and they essentially come to us with what you can call is a script, the same way that a movie has a script. They come up with that, and then we sit and storyboard it together. And instead of shooting it as a movie or a film, we divide up the scenes into us in a spatial manner, and then people are able to essentially walk through a cinematic or a multisensory experience uh, instead of sitting in one place and looking at the screen. So we for the octopus, we took all of this information, simplified it to one set of them being impressions, which is how they perceive the world, and another set which is expression, which covers how they operate in the world, how they try to hide away, what are their what are their what do you say? What are their living environments are like? What are their hunting environments are like? How do they ambush prey? All of that. And these together essentially form the core of discovery of the particular species. So we take cues from the kind of things that the octopus likes to mimic or is trying to live amongst. And some of the initial sketches are always quite fantastical. Nothing is touching the ground, everything is floating around. There's infinite possibilities to whatever you can do. And we just start sketching these, blocking these in. And as we progress further and further, like what the example that we are looking at over here is an interactive station that explores how many different ways the octopus's eyes can operate. So each of those circles does a different thing that an octopus's eye does. So we just throw it out there, see how does it look, what are the interactive expectations that people have from these stations, and then we start to detail it out. And then the end product, for all we know, could be wildly different, but where we start off never has any constraints. Now, going into the actual tank design of this, I just point out some of the most important aspects that we're looking at. So this is the plan view, which is essentially looking at the tank from the top. What is important when we are handling octopuses is making sure that we are giving them enough space. And although they are solitary, they are highly curious creatures. And when they decide to interact, they love interacting with all the visitors who come there. And they have a very particular sense of good sense of pattern recognition and remembering faces. So they know who are the new people, or they're able to see what different expressions mean when a person looks at them. So to a certain extent, they are able to understand the anthropomorphic emotional experience as well. And to fully facilitate this, as you can see, all the other tanks for different species are all a flat a flat piece of acrylic. But for octopuses, we generally tend to give a very big curved surface, which really amplifies both our experience and their experience when interacting with each other. And these two little tanks that we see in the back, the holding areas, these could be when we are trying to give enrichment or toys to the octopus, we are trying to feed them, or we are trying to take them away for regular weigh-ins or medical checkups, and all those sorts of things. So, where we usually see visitors or where we operate as visitors are these areas outside, which is the gallery space. What we don't see a lot of times hidden away behind the walls are the back of house areas, which are huge in themselves. And we can see the little staircase drawn in line work over here. And this is the back of house which the animal caretakers are able to come up. they're able to adjust the life support systems, interact with the animal, do whatever they need to. And this is, of course, the first step of massing in what is required. We The blue is essentially just water. The brown bits are the soil or the rock work that's going to go in. Just placeholders. Now, as we go one step deeper, we start blocking out what kind of rock work we need inside. Like you can see two different colors over here, which essentially means that we are going to give a sandy sort of a substrate at the bottom because octopuses love uh, playing around and thriving in soft and open environments, and actually giving a more complex array of rock work, then putting in live portals as well. All of these essentially become the octopus's neighbors on a daily basis. And you would have seen this mass in the center come in. And these are the holding gates which separate out these environments at any given point of time. And these also become very important when we are trying to separate out the activity that's happening in the front and what needs to be done meanwhile for maintenance. Um, and we keep detailing it further and further until we reach a place. We work with experts who work with both live and artificial corals and rocks and trees and all that good stuff. They essentially are experts at understanding each species' environmental requirements. And we detail it out as much as possible, block it into the 3D model, and start to put in the value. So every time we add a piece of rock work, that displaces a few hundreds of gallons. So that completely changes the kind of systems that need to go in. And once we block all of that in, we pull out a render, we send it to all the stakeholders. Some of them get excited, some of them not so excited. They give us feedback. We change the designs a little bit, but the rendering process is also super important because we are able to facilitate more funding if we are looking at more exciting options for some of these tanks. So the rendering process is the most important line of communication between us and all the different stakeholders involved. And once everything gets A-OK, it gets finalized, then we actually go into the construction documentation. And this essentially has to have all the information the construction folk need to pour concrete, to put in all the different materials, for the fabricators to come in and install all that they need to, for the engineers to come in and set up the life support systems that will be integrated behind rock work. So there is not a piece of detail that can be missed over here. If it is missed, that's a few weeks of work that's adding on to our head. So just to take you through some of the details over here, that's the average ideal volume of water that we are looking at, about 3,000 gallons. 3,000 gallons would be roughly 12,000 liters of water within just that single tank. And usually for a tank this size, we go with a 6-inch slab of acrylic. And when that becomes a curved piece of acrylic, your budgets are shooting through the roof. So that changes the budget constraints immediately. So it's a lot of these are like super complex moving parts that we constantly need to keep tweaking and making sure everything fits in the budget, everything is going according to plan, and the design still looks good. And most importantly, the visitors and the animal in the enclosure are happy at the end. And when all the things are said and done, sorry, what are these blue lines? Is there any way to delete this? Sorry about that. Yeah, so when all said and done, the construction is done, everything, this is what the final result can look like. I would say we got pretty close to how the final result is. A lot of these, what we are looking at over here, are living plants. This particular tank is for the Arapaima exhibit. And for the shed aquarium, a lot of these things are happening in phases. So it's not like you close down the whole museum for a couple of years, do all the construction, and then bam, one day it's open for the press. You go section by section, close it off, break down the things, build new things, and then suddenly it's open. So usually at the end of every intervention, you see the whole thing change over a period of 4 to 5 years, and then the generation that comes to see it for the first time after that gets to experience the full-fledged change. So yeah, hopefully I get a chance to go around and see it the day it opens. Mm, okay. Okay, so once all of this is said and done, the exhibits are set up, all things are good. We've handed it over to the teams inside. What are the impacts of a well done institution or exhibition, and how does it affect stewardship? A lot of times, these institutions use the money that they get or the profits that they get, and redirect them towards the original missions for why they were set up. Uh, Granted, when these institutions were set up over 100 years ago, they were all for amusement. But over the past many decades, they've converted into beacons of change in different societies. So there's a lot of in-house programming that happens throughout the year, especially in the summers, where children are welcome to come in and join and participate in programs. And this converts a lot of just wildlife enthusiasts into actual professionals who go into the field. So that's a very direct impact. We see a lot of field programming happening where experts go with people who sign up. And again, a lot of times this happens through schools and institutions coming together, and they actually get to see the more complexities of nature in their original context. And of course, a lot of times, like right now, there is a lot of funding freeze that's going on for different institutions. And sometimes this could, you know, the there are corporate interests that threaten the immediate local environment. And times like that, these institutions also serve as organizers and beacons for advocacy, where they actually are able to help people fight for what matters to them and see through until the actual policy comes through as well. This is something we are able to see more in the Western nations, and we see it starting to happen in India, and I hope that we are able to bring it more in our country as well. And on the other side of things is, of course, the conservation part of it. One small example, I mean, one big example over here is the coral populations in the Florida Keys. So we have a lot of marine biologists that do regular dives, and they can collect hundreds of samples. They document each of these in a very careful manner, make sure they're getting all the information correctly. They take these corals, they uproot them, and they take them into their lab only because they are already damaged or are in the process of perishing. They take them into specialized tanks, essentially make sure that they're treated and they become healthy again. And before they release it, what they do is they take a lot of these different coral breeds, and they make multiple clones of them or offsprings out of them, and they subject them to slowly increasing change in terms of their immediate climate, so that over the years they're able to build resilience in captivity that they're not able to do out in the wild. So when they're eventually reintroduced and reestablished in the wild, they become the generations that are able to actually fight the new, warmer, more acidic waters, thereby creating new strains of corals that are able to take over the ocean and fight yet a few more years while climate change keeps threatening them. So that's about it. Um, we have a little time, and yes, we can talk. Let's do question and answers.
That's a great session, sir. Dear participants, I would love to, we can have an interactive session. If you can drop down your questions as well, we could address them.
Nitya, I just want to check, was the audio okay when I was presenting?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay. So let's chat. Shrikant's asking, when in the process do you discuss about the budget and constraints? So we start off with the budget right from the start, and or start with a fantastical budget, and then slowly it starts to come down. So the time that I started working was just 3 months before COVID is when I got into this industry. So for um, practically every project that I'd worked on, we saw variations in budget go down anywhere between 5 and close to 30% for some of the exhibits. So when that happens, you are looking at wildly different end products, not just in terms of what the final design is, but how the narrative flow in a particular gallery is. So how we work on design adjacencies in each gallery completely changes. And that happened a lot. So whatever I showed you in Shed Right in today, when you actually go to Shed Aquarium, you'll see that there are some differences because we did see uh, budgetary constraints change things. Um, Rajita says this was seriously very unique. Appreciate it. Thank you, Aprajita. And if any of you are curious about this field at all, feel free to reach out. You can find me on LinkedIn. Uh, I'm happy to answer any questions. Um, yeah, one thing I would say that was a very quick but not very fun learning for me is that if when you do get into something like exhibition design or anything architecture related, right, the the period for which you're working is super long. So a lot of the times you're not quite able to speak of what you're working on. You're not free to discuss all the exciting stuff that you're doing. Um, and this is a question I'm getting a lot from prospective um, students and professionals in the field since they keep reaching out to me. And everybody wants to essentially, especially working in design, everybody wants to keep putting out their portfolio on social media or in other places. That is an urge that has to be kept separate for something like this. It takes a really long time to actually get things. Oh, I'll send my LinkedIn in the chat. Guys can find me.
Dear participants, it would be great if you have uh, questions, as this is a very different theme. And please share your views as well.
How and when can you bring your work to a country like India? Something that would fall between conservation and create a space curated for design as well. I think a lot of that is already happening. We are starting to see a cultural shift whereby um, it's not just regarding the funding, but also, sorry, the practice of uh, taking ownership of local institutions is also increasing in India. So I would say the opportunity is already there. But for us to see the results, it'll probably take a few years. But especially thanks to a lot of citizen scientist projects like the Merlin Bird app, or even what the Nature's Eye is doing, or people like Kaden or Sahib Doshi, and a lot of such Instagram ecological influencers are putting out the good word and coming up with more nature visit programs. We are seeing a good uptick in the interest for these things. What I'm really looking forward to is a more increased and multiplied form of this so that we are actually able to secure more funding that can go into conservation and environmental research.
Dear participants, do you have any questions or you have any views about the conservation or design? We could have a discussion as well.
Yeah, actually, yeah. If you guys are more comfortable just speaking through the mic, that's fine too. Like, if there's anything that you're curious about or quite not quite clear about based on what I was speaking about today, feel free to reach out. Thank you, Shrikant. Yeah, the Boston Aquarium and the New England Aquarium both are amazing. Does India have enough funds for conservation? They definitely do. I don't want to go on an unofficial rant and say there are some ecological institutions that are coming up in India which have tons of money, private money coming in, which are not necessarily doing the right work. But India definitely has funds, and the way that we can mobilize it and make it a normal part of uh, the industry in India is something that we are all actively working on. And a big part of it, again, to stress on the same point, is I guess looking at what are the local institutions around us and try to get involved with them as much as possible. This could be in terms of volunteering, getting memberships, uh, trying to essentially work with them in any way or manner as possible and try to bring them into more public light so that it becomes a more normalized thing. Right now, India has a lot of its obsession with the film industry and with cricket and with the celebrity culture, which is all great. But we are also seeing a lot of interest coming uh, into traveling, into exploring place sensitive ecological zones like the Western Ghats, slightly more on the touristy side, but we are starting to see people uh, treat it with more uh, required reverence as well as ecological sites. And the more that these sort of activities increase, they will essentially eventually radiate out into maintaining our institutions as as an agriculture student, how can I get into conservation? Um, Depends on what. I think the best place to start with conservation is to try to look at it in the most pinpointed aspect as possible. Because although everything is in a larger connected world, unless we are very particular about what is one aspect that really moves us that we want to put our energy towards, it becomes very overwhelming and tenable or intangible for us to handle. So, as an agricultural student, say for example, if you are looking at agricultural techniques, methods, uh, indigenous ways of protecting our seed culture and soil culture. That could be one thing. Or if you're completely talking about conservation not related to farming, then looking at the human animal conflicts, what are the different zones? Are there any conflicts that are happening in your area? Um, that could be something you can explore as well. And also trying to understand what your local ecology is first, right? A lot of times, the best biomarkers that we have are the amphibian species around us, frogs especially. Um, the moment there is even the smallest of chemical or climatic disturbance, you start to see a big change in the quality of generations or the success of their generations being able to go forward. Observe your frogs around you, it'll tell you how much of excess nitrogen is going into the soil and waterways because of fertilizers and things like that. And maybe that's another lens for you to start with.
Any questions? So we can wait few minutes and then we can wind up the session.
Sure thing. Yeah.
And so if you have, you can share your email ID so they could actually reach out to you to email as well.
Okay.
Oh, there's a question. Can you introduce interactive space, which is a space designed to existing spaces, museums, uh, introduce
In
of
terms of feasibility.
feasibility? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. It becomes a little more challenging when these are heritage institutions. Like, say, the first project I ever worked on was at the Udaipur Palace Museum, and the requirement for that was to integrate technology into the Udaipur Palace, which of course is quite challenging in its own way. I'm not just talking about bringing in the electricals and so on, facilitating movement in those interim spaces, which are usually quite tight, and what sort of technologies we can bring in. All of those become a concern as well. But yeah, and bringing in interactive systems is not as complicated as we think they are. But as long as we are counting in the lead time, they can absolutely be done. And year on year, we are seeing uh, very quick, almost exponential improvement in how small electronic and interactive systems get and how successfully we are able to integrate them. Um, the larger issue comes in uh, where it's always very easy to put in an interactive system in a space after it's built, but making sure that it is able to take millions of people interacting with it uh, on a yearly basis, and that's tens of millions in some institutions, and they're able to survive that level of traffic as well is the larger issue. So a big part of when we introduce interactives is also, um, say for example, we work with different companies like Blue Cadet or Electrosonic. These are all people who are experts in interactive systems and they fabricate them as well. And usually they are almost like on a retainer that once they install a system, if there's any maintenance required, if there are any glitches. A lot of times these carry proprietary softwares which are built specifically for that exhibit. Then are there any bugs that they have to look at in the back end? All of these things are counted in to the budget as well. And they usually have anywhere between a 5 to 10 year time frame, usually 5 year. And then you start to see components need to be changed or completely refabricated as an example.
Any organizations in Mumbai you would like would be able to suggest we can work with as a person from a non-science background?
Sorry, are you asking about some of the design studios that you can work with or institutions?
Yeah, I think an institution or organization which actually works on this kind of
Okay. Um, yeah, so in terms of institutions, there's a lot of them, especially these days. The biggest ones I can think of are all based in the US. There is Ralph Applebaum Associates. There is Think Design. There's Gallagher and Associates. I've worked with two of these. Um, then there's Studio Joseph. In I believe Germany, there's a really great studio called Studio Bruckner. In India, there is I don't know how much of institutional work they're doing, but they do a lot of experiential work. I think it's based out of Bangalore. It's called Vari, right? WARI space WATAI. Um, I don't know anyone there yet. I haven't interacted with them, but I see a lot of inspiring work coming out of them, more on the commercial side. So if you are wanting to work on the permanent exhibits and larger architectural aspects of institutions, then you work for these studios. Or if you're more interested in the day-to-day programming and how temporary exhibits get built, this is true especially in museums and galleries or science museums, uh, then you would be working directly with the institution itself rather than the studio. So there are those different variations as well. Anything in Kolkata, but I'll have to go through my Google Maps for this. I keep saving a lot of them. Institutions are definitely not able to access it right now, but in terms of studios, I don't believe I know any in Kolkata. Yeah. Any organizations in Mumbai you'd be able to suggest we can work uh, from non-science background? Yeah, also, but to be clear, you don't need to be from a science background at all. I think the way to go about it is, especially in this day and age, um, what's most important in the US, and I see this trend coming to India as well, is having your own niche of expertise, which works out to be great, right? Like you you could have a completely different undergrad, for example, and then you suddenly find an interest in something else, and you find a way to combine these two expertise together, and that could lead to something else altogether. So, if any of you are interested in getting into this sort of a field, yes, there's a lot of technical aspects that you'll learn. It would be more on the architectural side. But if you're looking at the more curatorial aspects or working with these institutions, um, the, uh, even when I was fresh out of college in India, there was a lot of hesitation from my end to reach out to people and say that I'm interested in something. But you'd be surprised. how open people in the industry could be if somebody shows interest and are able to show that they are able to put in the hours to learn about it. If you're really genuinely interested in this particular field, you can find your way any given time of your life to transition into these services. And I'm sure your tasks might be different than what others may be doing, but again, like you find a way to bring in your expertise, and before you know it, you would be working for such an institution.
Any questions? Any questions for so, or we could wind up the session. Um, okay. Um, so you have anything else to tell about, speak about, share about?
Uh, yeah, nothing as of now.
Okay.
But I'm always happy to chat if anybody is interested. I pasted my LinkedIn profile. Feel free to reach out. And I'm especially free to bring these aspects to India as well. A big part of why I'm working over here is also because um, I want to build my expertise and I'm able to learn as much as possible and eventually bring it to India. Not that they're no experts, they're brilliant experts. Like there are amazing institutions like Virasat-e Khalsa in India. There's the brilliant Science Museum in Bangalore. There's a lot of them, but I think everybody has their set of goals of how much they want to learn. I think once I feel like I'm expert to the level I want, we will start bringing these. But if anybody in India wants to work on these things, be super happy to either collaborate or help guide or put you in touch with people if needed.
Okay. So as we have come to an end to our webinar, I would like to extend a heartfelt thank you to each and everyone for joining this session today. Has been a pleasure as a host for this session. On behalf of the Nature's Eye team, I would like to extend a heartfelt gratitude to our speaker, Mr. Vishnu, for planning this webinar. And he has, uh, it is a very different subject altogether. Thank you for showing a different view out of it. And sir, your guidance has been invaluable. Please do reach out to him if you have any if you want to collaborate or get more details. And thank you, sir. And please do do join our community group for the updates and for the webinar updates. We have a lot of webinars lined up this month and the next month. So let's all be a champion for the conservation and show a positive impact for our world. Finally, thank you to the Nature's Eye team for their immense support and throughout the organization organizing the event. I would like to thank my team members, Mr. Kedin, Shamna, Romna, and Shaitali for making this event successful. Thank you for all joining us. See you. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Chaitali.